I swear that hearing the sounds of death can be far more chilling than any video. There's something about hearing the last breaths, words, or screams that transports you into that moment. It offers some of the only clues that we have into how it felt to be there. That couldn't be more true for this particular audio clip. 3 men were destined to head out to space on February 21st, 1967 by way of a Saturn IB rocket. They were meant to be the trailblazers who allowed the US to win the man-on-the-moon space race. They weren't quite ready to make that particular voyage themselves, but they were scheduled to be the very first low Earth orbital test. Unfortunately, a catastrophic tragedy claimed all 3 lives 3 weeks before they could make their trip. The date was January 27, 1967, and the day began with a buzz of excitement. It was time for a launch rehearsal test, which I'm sure made their impending voyage feel even more real. They would soon learn that their test would be filled with mishaps and technical difficulties that would amount to a lot of waiting and boredom. I suppose that kind of mirrors many space launches. The missions can stretch on for long periods inside cramped crafts with little excitement for much of the time. The Apollo 1 voyage was scheduled to last for up to 14 days. The simulation began with basic tests of system operations.
STC. Okay, let's go ahead to static fire. The problem we've got now is somehow or other the communications that we're making out of spacecraft are slopping over into Black 2, and they're coming in there just as strong as they are in Black 3. Of course, that clobbers the test supervisor's net. Okay, we'll stand by here a minute. Let's go ahead and make the simulated static fire and get that out of the way while we still got something we can talk with. All right, Chuck, something else has just come up. I'm trying to get an answer on it now. CC, you copy me on Black 3? Yes, Black 2. Man? We've got a tie here between Black 2 and 3. That's, are you hearing all this talk on Black 2 from the spacecraft?
Research, George.
Okay, we've got a hard time. You won't be able to get in touch with me until I get it cleared as long as the spacecraft is talking.
After Command Pilot Gus Grissom, Senior Pilot Edward White II, and Pilot Roger Chaffee entered the spacecraft. Immediately, Grissom noticed something bothersome. There was a strange odor that he could only describe as like sour buttermilk coming from their flowing oxygen. It's unclear what caused the pungent smell, but the test was halted for an hour to identify the problem. Once the issue was resolved, it was finally time to install the hatch and seal them inside. The 3 pilots and spacecraft test conductor began running their own system tests.
Okay, Gus, you guys ready to pick up now? We said yes. Okay, I didn't copy the first time. I senior pilot on panel 15. The service module RCS-A, helium number 1 on then center.
On and center.
I didn't copy you yet.
It is on and center.
RCS, we gotta go? Okay, roger. Okay. RCS-B on then center.
On and center.
The crew and conductor began running into even more roadblocks. Many of the technical difficulties revolved around communications. This brought the simulation to yet another standstill.
Okay, we got word from the communications people that we will very possibly lose a commander on liftoff in the present configuration. I'll have him come up on the net and explain what he means. Okay. This is MCOM. Both GMIL and LLC have reported no modulation on the uplink RF. This indicates that with the commander we are going through a hardline configuration. Okay, let's stand by it only. Critical. Roger. Okay. We better, unless you got some suggestions, stop here and regroup again.
It was finally time for the pilots to begin their countdowns.
Okay, this is command pilot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Roger, senior pilot counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, senior pilot.
Pilot heading
haven't got you yet. How's this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Unfortunately, the communication problems persisted. At one point, Command Pilot Gus Grissom vocalized his concerns.
Yeah, how are we going to get to the moon if we can't talk between 3 buildings? I can't hear a thing you're saying. Jesus Christ. Again? But how are we going to get to the moon if we can't talk between 2 or 3 buildings?
The pilots were wearing electrodes that were attached to equipment that monitored their heart rhythm. Their respirations were also being recorded. This can tell us a lot about their activities. It can tell us if they're at rest, anxious, engaging muscles in movement, or in distress. Their personal microphones were also able to pick up sounds of movement, which offered further clues about the terrifying events that were about to unfold. After the pilot's countdown, the audio fell silent as the crew began their own troubleshooting. They began interchanging their communication equipment in hopes that it would run more smoothly. Aside from these issues, all other systems appeared to be operating appropriately. But soon, there would be an ominous sign. An increase in cabin pressure was detected. Much like an airplane, a spacecraft must maintain a healthy pressure within the cabin. When at a high altitude, the oxygen molecules are much farther apart. Even though the amount of oxygen is the same, this makes it impossible to breathe in enough to sustain normal human function. Without a stabilized pressure inside, anyone on board would fall victim to hypoxic brain injury. Of course, if they were out in space, they would have a whole separate set of issues. The pilots were obviously still on Earth and not at risk for this, but the increase in pressure was the first blaring alarm to indicate that catastrophe was lurking. Soon after the silence began, the command pilot's microphone transmitted brushing and tapping sounds. A short time later, there was an increase in the senior pilot's pulse and respirations. His electrocardiogram indicated muscle movement for several seconds. After, he returned to rest levels. This didn't stand out as alarming, but that changed in just a few seconds. A power surge was recorded, possibly indicating a short circuit. The flow of oxygen to all 3 suits rapidly increased until reaching the sensor's maximum. This likely means that the men went from at rest to action movement abruptly. A voice came crackling over the speakers that didn't sound like the rest. It was laced with pure terror. It was the voice of Roger Chaffee. "Flames, or possibly fire," he yelled. Downstairs on the launch pad, the television monitor displayed Senior Pilot White's arms raised above his head, desperately trying to open the hatch to allow them to escape. A furious fire began due to an electrical short. The wiring inside of the craft was coated in Teflon, which is flame resistant, but the intense heat penetrated right through. Because the cabin was airtight and filled with pure oxygen, it allowed the fire to intensify and possibly fast. Additionally, the hatch required tools to open, which left all 3 pilots locked inside. Once they realized that they couldn't get out on their own, their only option was to make one last heartbreaking voice transmission. I'm going to play the remainder of the audio, which many will find upsetting. If you do not wish to hear it, now is the time to end this video.
Hey, crew, can you egress at this time? Confirm it. Bad leader, get in there and help him. Bad leader, CFCC. All right, crew, did we get verification? Can you egress at this time? What were you able to hear him? Stop. Come on in. Buzz, can you read us? Bad leader.